the email ready as well. Lots of clicking and Gary carpeting his living room.
I don't know what's going on. Mute. Does it go away?
Yeah, I think so. It stopped now. But it's probably muted.
Come back.
Come back. He's really gone away. No build news to share today.
I know, it's all gone very quiet, hasn't it?
Yeah.
My microphone may have packed up.
We can hear you now.
You can hear me okay now?
Yes, that's sounding fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the microphone's gradually deciding to separate itself from the headphones. I might actually buy some more headphones.
Yeah, you need to get a good review set that you can keep.
Yeah.
Right, the stream is going. The everything's on. Jason, Gary, good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
And we'll start with build news.
That won't take very long.
Yeah, no build news.
Build news. There is no build news.
Yeah, just seen Gabriel tweet no news on builds to share today. So we're going to be talking about why there's no builds for Windows Mobile, Windows 10 Mobile. But we can also be talking about, we've got the release version of the November update for Windows that was released since we last recorded. So we can talk about that and our experiences with that.
Well called last week for getting the name just about right.
Yes, yeah, we didn't do so far off on that. And the timing was quite good as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so we can talk about that. And the Lumia 950 XL has gone on sale in the US. And Jason can warn us again about buying it through the Microsoft Store.
Yeah.
And Amazon have dropped the price.
Oh, and Gary, your mic did go then.
Can you hear me again?
Yes.
I was saying Amazon have dropped the price again.
Yes. So let's so we'll come back to mobile. So let's talk about Windows 10. So last the desktop build. So last week, as we recorded, we had we pretty much guessed that Thursday was going to see the release of the update to the general public. So, Jason, did we get the release, and what was it called?
Yes, we did. We got I think it was called the November update. Actually, let me see, because I did grab a screenshot. Let me just if I can find it. Yeah, so, well, pretty much everything got released last Thursday, didn't it? The Xbox update got released.
Yes, we can talk about
the
that.
Windows 10 desktop update got released. The Windows 10 mobile update didn't get released.
But they did release some app updates for Windows 10 mobile, so I suppose we got those as well that day.
Yes, it was a very busy day on Thursday, wasn't it? So, like you said, we kind of guessed what it was. But so what?
So my screenshot of Windows updates shows it as downloading as upgrade to Windows 10 Pro version 1511,10586, which would mean a lot to normal users, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I think they're officially called it the November update.
They are
officially
call it November update. As I was told when I was out in Redmond, and we looked at each other and said, well, how do you know which year it is?
Yes, that's exactly what I thought. That because I'm hoping there'll be a November update next year.
Yes, I think there will be. So I think you just have to know which year it was and what version it was. But I think there's been a lot of debate about whether it was going to be called the fall update. That's been what had been sort of leaked to the press almost. I guess they decided that was too US centric. November made a lot more sense in that respect.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think also it sets a good precedent because it doesn't. It's saying, well, it's not. It's just an update to Windows. It's not a major release or anything like that. It just happened to be the update we put out in November. Might put one out in December as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Texas.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, but so the update went out, and as we kind of expected, contrary to what we were thought maybe a few months ago, it was a full update like through the preview builds.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Complete full build. Downloaded with the kind of the hidden folder on the C drive, and yeah,
and it was I mixed success on my devices. My Surface Pro 3 got to 100%, came up with an error, and that was it. And then no longer saw the update, and never to see the update again. I couldn't get it to see the update at all. So I used the media creation tool, which we'll talk about that in a sec. What other devices? My laptop at work, that stuck at 64%. So I'd use a media creation tool on that one because seeing as I'd already brought the image down, it wasn't too bad. But then a couple of the devices that I've got here, they just worked fine. They went straight through. I don't know what your experiences were like.
I already had it on mine from the Surface Pro 3 because I'd opted into the Insiders program, so I'd already had it for a while. But I've got a Windows 10 VM which I use for installing, each Insider build and trying them out. And then, so actually, I'd already upgraded that to the Insider build 105.86 when that came out. But what I also did was reverted back to the RTM state that I'd saved as a snapshot and opted out and waited for the download to come. And interesting enough, the first time it downloaded successfully, and then it started to install, went to the circle, and then rolled back and did the installation. So I'm not quite sure what went on there, but I think there was a few others. I think a couple of people on Twitter reported the same thing with the first download, but then it just downloaded again, installed, and absolutely no problem at all.
And there was a known issue, wasn't there, potentially with SD cards?
So take your SD card out, but then what if you haven't got enough space to install it? Well, they had a workaround for that as well.
Yeah, I don't know what the issue. I mean, I did have an SD card in the Surface, and maybe that's what actually caused the problem. But I think people were saying it sort of sticks on 40%, but my Surface went all the way through and then just bombed out right at the end.
Yeah, I saw a lot of varying degrees of reports on that, and it did seem to be a general issue which they hadn't picked up in all the testing, which is, and I mean, you consider when the number of people we got out there, you'd expect it to do, but whatever subset of the people out there who are in Insiders, they're always going to miss some edge cases. So I think.
Although I had seen Gabe mention that a few times during the Insiders program that people should maybe try moving the SD card, but I've got an SD card in mine and didn't have any issues.
Yeah, it's not arbitrarily if you happen to have an SD card in your machine it's going to fail. It's just it's a combination of circumstances plus an SD card, but taking the SD card out sorts it. So I think it's a different one, and I think they thought they had picked it all up, but then obviously once the install started going out there, they found they hadn't got it sorted.
So the media creation tool works very well. That option of so if anybody I'll try and dig out the link and include it, but you just download the media creation tool from the Windows 10 site, and then you get the option of downloading an ISO or actually just upgrading the machine that you're on. So I did it two different ways. On one machine I downloaded the ISO because I wanted that to do another one. And then on my laptop at work, I thought I'll just let it upgrade, and that worked okay. Interesting as well, the old HP TouchSmart. That I tried to do the update on that, and it got to about 70% and blue screened during the process of doing the driver side of it, and then it rolls back. So it rolled back very well, which I thought worked quite well. So they had another go. I thought I'd give it maybe it's a one-off, so I'd give it another go, and it failed at the same point. But I had the back of my mind something to do with video drivers, so I made sure before I started the install off that it was using the very latest NVIDIA graphics driver, and then started the install process off, and it went through fine. So that is running the latest build. Amazing, it's gone from Vista all the way through, and it's running the latest Windows 10 build.
Excellent. We like that.
Yeah. So I'm happy. All my devices are up and running, and it's interesting. We've been running the Insider build on my two tablets and a PC at the office, and I've been very, very pleased with them. But only really when I got the build on my Surface and my laptop I use at work did I really notice that it is a big improvement over stability, and there's the extra features which we'll talk about, but just in stability in general, much better.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'd noticed from trying a couple of the Insiders builds that there certainly does seem to be a big step forward, given that there isn't a huge amount of change. There's some kind of visual changes, but I think there's been quite a lot of optimization, probably from the the telemetry that everyone seems to be so fearful of. I think it really has kind of made everything much more stable, and it's almost kind of unnoticeable in a way. It's kind of just little things that you realise, actually that hasn't crashed for a while, or I think they've done quite a bit of work.
Well, and I know that Gary, you said last week about the Edge was a significant change, and I think that's probably where I've noticed the most improvement. It doesn't, on my laptop at work previously, whenever I went away from the machine and locked it, when I come back, Edge would have crashed and I had to end task it to bring it back, but that's no longer the case, and Edge seems much better now.
Yeah, for me, it's been closing cleanly every time. I haven't had that problem at all since I started. In fact, I'm using Edge almost exclusively now, whereas before I was doing a mix of Edge and IE because of that closing problem. But it's been really good. And
then, of course, you've got like the DLNA streaming built into the browser, which works pretty well. Been pretty impressed with that, and you synchronize reading lists and favorites, which is quite good, and synchronizes with the phone as well.
Yeah. And talk about synchronizing the phone, we've also got this Cortana stuff. So I just noticed it's telling me I had a missed call on my phone about 2 seconds ago, up in my Action Center on Windows 10.
Right. Yeah, I haven't been able to test that because I'm at Windows 10 on my my Windows 10 phone has got no SIM in it. But yeah just overall.
Which is the other big news this week, which I'll tell you about in a second.
Okay. But yeah, overall, I think it's been a good update. It's quite a lengthy update. I mean, I haven't got used to it, but one of the guys in the office did it today, and he set it off going before he went for his lunch and came back, and it was sort of at 80% downloaded, and then he started waiting for it to do all its stuff. So it is quite a big update. And I think the only slight issue about that I would have is that there's a lot of people getting new machines for Christmas, and the first thing they're going to get is a 3 gig update on Christmas morning.
Yes.
Which takes me back to my. Do you remember when I got my kids' Surface?
Yeah.
And they both had the Windows 8.1 upgrade to do on Christmas Day, and that was on my old broadband. But yeah, it's quite a big out of box sort of change, update, isn't it, for some people? But if it's the same if you've got an iPad just before iOS 9 came out and it was on iOS 8, you've got to do the update.
Yes, I think that's definitely where you'll get the most, the biggest benefit. As I say, it's just kind of, it's nothing major, nothing you could really kind of put your finger on as such, but yeah, it definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah. So
it's just stable. I think that's the key thing. It doesn't crash. It's not for me recently. I mean, I was getting 2 or 3 crashes a day of some sort prior to that, and it just doesn't do it anymore. So, and I know I push the envelope because I'm doing dev stuff and things, but it definitely feels so much better.
I think the only thing, I mean, this is from what I've seen, kind of generally Surface Pro 3 specific, but Edge continually seems to crash the graphics driver on the Surface Pro 3, which can be quite frustrating, especially when it displays that the graphics driver for Windows 8 has stopped responding and been restarted. So I think there's definitely, hopefully we'll see some firmware updates with some new graphics drivers in the not too distant future.
That's funny that I've not seen that on mine. I don't think I've even seen it once.
Oh right, yeah, no, it seems to be using Edge. Seems to quite often I see that now. Doesn't seem to be when I'm just using apps or kind of traditional Win32 apps, but yeah, certainly browsing in Edge, quite often I see the graphics driver restarted.
Yeah, I've seen that, but are you sure you're on the latest version of the video driver?
As far as I know, I mean it's just from the Surface firmware, so
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. It's interesting that I wonder if it makes a difference in the order of the builds and things that you've got in there.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, one thing I might try is actually just deleting the graphics, downloading the driver pack and deleting the graphics driver.
My driver's labelled 17th of July.
Let me have a quick look on mine.
10, 18, 15, 4, 2, 5, 6. So that driver, 17th of July, that's the sort of the RTM type time frame.
Yeah, I've got 4256 as well.
Yeah, so it's not the driver update then. It's something else. So it's funny how just almost identical devices, a Surface Pro 3 can have the issue. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, obviously with mine, I've got Hyper-V installed, and that does
I haven't
change.
got that. So.
Yeah, I mean that does change the way that the host operating system
Yes.
functions. So it could be little things like that, but I think I've certainly seen quite a few people talking about it on Twitter. So hopefully with that telemetry, which I'm perfectly happy to send to Microsoft, hopefully they'll pick that up and fix it.
Yeah, and so now the update's going out to normal users. I haven't really seen a lot of talk about the issues or anybody having problems with it. Just I've seen a few people do it, but it's just an update, isn't it? I suppose it just takes a bit longer than some of the others, but I think most people just see it as an update.
Well, I think also because people have been through the Windows 10 update, they know what to expect.
Yeah.
So I think that was noticeable amongst my family in terms of they've all done the update this week, and none of them asked me for help in doing it. They just did it.
Yeah. Always a good test is to see what my kids have done, but they haven't installed the update yet. So they're just on the norm. They don't touch Windows update. They're not like us that go through and check for updates. So at some point, I guess they'll just get the update and they'll say, "What's this doing?" They'll carry on.
Yeah, my wife's Surface Pro 2 downloaded the update. I don't know if she's got a files installing it. Obviously, it took quite a few hours for it to download on our broadband connection. But yeah, I'm not sure if she's actually installed it yet.
Yeah, but overall, a nice update. I think. For normal users, it's not really that much of a big deal, but it's made a big improvement to the experience. And Windows 10 Threshold 2 is done. Long live Redstone.
Yeah, I think the other two big improvements I'm really happy with, which again most people wouldn't come across, is the I think you mentioned it in creation of the download media tool. Before you had to choose if you wanted home or pro, and now it's just a single. And you can even do x86 and 64-bit as a single download. So I've got like a 16 gig flash drive that's just got the full setup media. And I think the other thing, particularly with me trying to set things up in VMs and stuff, being able to use Windows 7 or Windows 8 qualifying keys to activate is a big step forward. I was kind of installing Windows 7 into VMs and then doing an upgrade. So
yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's been from what I've heard, unfortunately, people ringing up and getting probably less than helpful people on the Microsoft support line being told, sorry, you're going to have to buy a new license. And I think that's not really the story that Microsoft want told.
No. And I think they're aware they've got to sort out their support system generally.
Yeah. I mean, you can understand, support people, if they've got a Windows that won't activate, they're probably trained that's chances are that's not genuine. And traditionally with Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, if you had a key that wasn't working or an installation that wasn't activating, then you had to buy a new key or obtain a new key from somewhere. So I think they're just kind of towing that line, and so yes, I think that's another, which again, it's probably most people won't come across, but I think that's quite a big little thing.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm very pleased. Things feel nicely and synchronized now as well. I've got all my machines are on the same build now, which is really nice until we get the Redstone build, but I'm happy then to move forward and then the same thing. But it does feel like this is the finished article. I think the only thing I would say is the Skype messaging apps are still a little bit hit and miss. I did some testing with it today. I sent myself a message, and I think none of the devices received the message without actually going and looking at them. So I still think there's still this issue of notifications where you either seem to get every device telling you that you've got a notification with Skype message or none. And but I think they're technically still preview apps, aren't they? The messaging apps.
Yes. Yeah, I think they're still quite bare bones, aren't they? Really?
Yeah. Now, did you see that? Talking about apps, did you see the Facebook beta app?
I haven't.
The link was going around.
Yeah, I'm not on Facebook, so I haven't seen that.
Well, you wouldn't have been able to use it anyway because it doesn't work because it's a closed beta. A couple of interesting things on it though is one, it's actually developed by Facebook rather than Microsoft, which the current Facebook apps for mobile and for desktop are actually done by Microsoft. And the other thing is, I think Gary, you might, if you've seen it. I've got a feeling it's an iOS port.
Yes, I've got a feeling it's an iOS port as well. I mean, I couldn't confirm that for definite, but it just looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, the dialog boxes and you can try it yourself. You can, if you can find the link. It's in the store. It's in closed beta at the moment, so you can sign in. But even the dialog box, the error boxes, and the sign-in boxes have an iOS feel to it. And I've seen a few people on Twitter sort of speculating that it could be an iOS port, which I think is quite good if it is actually. I mean, and yes, it's nice to have a dedicated app, but the iOS one is fine. And if they can get that to run on Windows, then great. Saves a lot of effort, and it's what Microsoft are trying to do. But there's been some sort of bad news with the bridging stuff recently.
Well, yeah.
Or is it?
Well, it depends which view. Okay, I mean, if I talk to some of my fellow developers, they're very happy about this news, and if I talk to other people, they're not so happy about it. Now, this is basically the bridge that Microsoft were doing for the Android apps. Now, it's actually a bit. So if we quickly go back to the iOS bridge, the iOS bridge is actually a bit of technology which allows you to take iOS code and recompile it to run on Windows code with some tweaks to make it work with the Windows operating system. The Android one was slightly different. It basically allowed you to take an Android APK and effectively run it on Windows 10 in effectively a VM. And there's been lots of rumors doing the rounds this week that particular bridge is dead, that it's not going to come to fruition. It's not likely to happen anytime soon. And I've been hearing rumors that the prime reason for that is because a huge impact on performance on the phones running it.
Right.
But also a bit of a huge backlash from developers who felt that it was a really bad one step too far. Funny enough, they don't mind people porting apps if they've got to do a bit of work, but they don't really do any work. They just felt it was a bit. But also because it wasn't actually giving a particularly brilliant experience to users from all accounts. I mean, I know some people have tried this. It was available for a little while on early Windows 10 builds. It's not actually in the latest Windows 10 build, this bridge. And I know some people tried it out and said, yeah, you could get apps to go across, but lots of things just didn't work because they relied on hardware in the Android devices. So there's a lot of concerns about it. Now, I was always quite keen on the idea because I think anything to bridge the app gap will do Microsoft well in terms of getting Windows 10 out there. But one of the problems with this is and it's something I hadn't realized until quite recently, is that this only actually worked on Windows 10 mobile and small tablet build. It didn't actually allow you to port those apps across to Windows 10 itself, which kind of went against the ethos of how Windows 10 is supposed to be working. So it would mean, and also that has impacts potentially for things like Continuum and all sorts of things around there. So I think they've now taken the view that most of the apps they want to get across have got iPhone and iOS versions, and probably they're the first-party versions, the first ones to be developed. And those iOS ones, when ported across, seem to work better. So I think that's the view they're kind of taking at the moment, and whether we'll actually see this bridge actually come to life and be usable, I'm beginning to doubt.
I think I think the point that there's a gap. Yeah, we know that between what you can get for iOS and Android and for Windows. So, but it doesn't really matter really which is it, iOS or Android. Either one of those would be good enough. So, for example, Sonos, the banking app, all these things that we're missing. There's always an iPhone version. There's never Android. Well, there's very rare occasions where it's Android only, and I think it makes sense in some ways, the fact that iOS apps don't really integrate with the operating system that well in the way that Android apps have got a lot of flexibility you can have it replace the messaging app, and you can have whatever you want. It's got a lot of hooks in, whereas iOS apps are very standalone, and that would make more sense.
Yeah, I certainly see that. I know this bridge caused a lot of consternation amongst developers because they felt people could just port apps across without having to do any work at all, and that wasn't going to give a very good. And primarily, the consternation wasn't that it was taking their jobs away; it was the fact that it wasn't going to give a very good experience. Which I tend to agree. I think that if you just put an Android app on and say it relies on hardware buttons, or I mean, there's so many things which Android apps can use within the operating system, as Ian rightly says, that it becomes difficult to actually do a straight put the APK on and hope it works. I mean, you only got to try using any of the Android emulators on Windows to see how that can be an issue. Although a lot of apps will run, and that can be useful. But you're right, Ian. I think most of the apps that people cry out about, and we're not talking about the techie users here. We're talking about the real end users. It's the banking apps, it's the travel apps and things like that. And they've all got iOS versions.
Yeah, Jason, would you happy with just iOS versions on there?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've shown some games, and that tends to be one of the places where Windows Phone has kind of lacked in terms of games launching synchronized with other platforms. So, and I think, as Gary says, that was always my concern, and I saw concern, expressed from people on Twitter that, what's the point in developing for Windows if I might just, people would just develop for Android and port their app. So, so I think in some ways it's good. It's certainly good that they've cancelled that. If it is, cancelled, it's because of performance issues. That's the last thing we want. One of Windows Phone's real strengths is its performance on any hardware. So yeah, I think. I mean, for me, if we could get the Sonos iOS app ported directly across, then that's absolutely great. But at the same time, I'm also keen to get those universal native applications as well that will run across. Being able to control Sonos on the Xbox One would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's where I really want to see.
Yeah.
I think also the other thing to note here is Microsoft haven't actually said it's dead yet.
No.
It's just said it's not ready. So this is what they could. The code name for this one is called Astoria. There's quite a few out there. I think it's Westminster, which is the one for getting Windows 32 apps across, which is not due until next year, and Islandwood, which is the iOS one, which is definitely working at the moment. So and I think that, as Ian says, the Facebook apps probably use the Islandwood bridge.
Yeah, I do like the way most of the stories reported it as how it was delayed, or it ever had a release date.
Yeah, so I said Westminster. I mean, Centennial didn't for the bridge for Windows 32. Westminster is something entirely different, which I can't talk about.
Westminster has been talked about. I think that is public. I've seen that.
Yeah, the code name's public.
Yeah. As long as we can get the apps out there, and we start to see some of these missing ones come through, then that'll be great. We are starting to see a few of the universal apps coming through now, and like things like that BBC app. They're really good when you do get them.
Yeah.
So very very interested to see how that works. So that will be coming through to the desktop. Just the iOS bridge, will that work with Windows 10 Mobile as well?
Yes. So that's the beauty of that. That works on both Windows 10 and Windows 10 Mobile. So that gives us a far more desktop apps. Yeah.
Well, that's what we want to see anyway. So they port them over as universal apps and then get them on there. I mean, that's the one thing we want to get that onto all the stores. And before we talk about phone as well, just Jesse said about the Xbox. So that update was last week.
Yes, that came out. I think again, people on the Xbox preview program had already received the final build for maybe a few days before. So oddly enough, I actually haven't been on their Xbox since it came out, so I have no idea what it's like at all. But I mean, certainly I joined not straight away, but I opted in probably a week or two after they'd asked people to voluntarily opt in, and I think about a week or so or two after that, it just went out to all Xbox preview members. But so the couple of the builds that I got some strange fonts, some strange display issues. But one thing I will say is that they promised us a rapid release cycle, and that's what we got. There was at least a new Xbox preview dashboard every if not every day, every couple of days. So they're certainly on a rapid release cycle there.
Yeah, and I'd say it looks pretty good. You know, the watermark's gone and everything as you'd expect. But if you go and check the version number, you will see it's what 10586, isn't it? The same as the desktop build, and yeah, it's fine. I mean, you don't. I must admit, I don't really spend a lot of time in the UI. I tend to put it on, put Netflix on, or put it on and play Forza Motorsport, and that's about it really. But you know, like I said last week, I recorded a video of showing you what the guide looks like and things like that. Interesting, my kids said they got the update, but they weren't really that particularly impressed with it. But because I think they're a bit like, you know, they just go into it and load the games and whatever. I think maybe that when they spent some more time with the sort of the chat mechanism and things like that, they might have more thoughts on it. But yeah, I think they just said instead of it being left to right, it's kind of up and down now.
Yeah. Well, one thing that was kind of kept silent and then I think announced on the day that it was coming out was that this particular build actually removes the gestures, which apparently nobody used anyway. But they certainly kept that quite quiet.
Yes, they did. Yeah, I remember turning that off because whenever I sat on the sofa and put sort of my hands up behind my head or whatever, then I'd start gesturing around. So I turned that off early.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the things. That's why BBC said they were delaying the iPlayer, wasn't it?
Oh yes, it was. Yeah.
Because the gestures kept making the controls pop up on screen when people didn't want them to.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing it does include as well is the backwards compatibility, which when I showed the kids the list, they were quite impressed with that because the Star Wars one's on, and I keep meaning to ask them to try it, but they haven't sort of got around to doing it yet. But
yeah, I was quite pleased because the two Rainbow Six games are included. So which I've got. Actually, I think I bought Rainbow Six Vegas 2 and Rainbow Six Vegas, the original one. Actually, I got as part of the games for gold.
Right.
So I didn't even pay for that one. It was extra.
Well, all I'm really bothered about is that Forza Motorsport 6 still works, and yeah, so that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Although Jason's avatar always trying to crash into me.
Absolutely, that's my driving style.
Yeah, every time I drive past, he turns into me. So.
It's a good job I'm not racing, isn't it?
Yes, well, I do remember that when we were at CES, Gary. So I think if you were on the track at the same time, I think I'd steer well clear. That's all I'm saying.
One thing interesting, one of the top guys at Xbox, I think, tweeted saying he would also like to see Red Dead Redemption, which I was kind of hoping to see in the initial lineup because it was literally top of the charts for so long. It's such a great classic game. It's one, that's probably one game I would keep an Xbox 360 around for. So hopefully Rockstar will give their permission to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, as I'm getting battered on my internal mail here about Project Westminster, I'll explain what it is. It's the web site conversion bridge, which is kind of out there already, and people are already using it. But there are a couple of bits on there I can't talk about.
Now, of course, the other thing I want to talk about is mobile. Before I talk about the state of the builds and that, I just want to read an email out from Rob Green, and he says, "Hi, Ian, great show. I'm glad I listened to this week's podcast as I had pre-ordered a Lumia 950, and as soon as they became available again, I'm more of a 5-inch man myself. After hearing Gary talk about the speed improvements with the XL, though, I cancelled the 950 pre-order, and you had to actually phone up to cancel the pre-order, and then I ordered the Monster XL instead. I had wondered if the extra core would be really worthwhile, but I now realise that with the extra cooling, the XL means that the CPU is able to run that bit faster too. I would have preferred devices. I love my 930 with the latest Windows 10 builds. I'm sure that the 950 would have done me proud, but it's not. But it's not like we get a new Windows mobile flagship every year, is it? I thought I'd better make the most of it. It's a shame that liquid cooling didn't come into the small device, but completely understandable. So now I sit and wait some more. So thanks very much. Learning something every day. Keep up the good work. And that was from Rob Green, a long-term listener.
Yeah, Rob is a long-term listener.
Thanks, Rob. Oh, and he says, P.S. Those Surface Book thingamajig box look very nice, don't they? And he also says, PPS, should the automatic signature email in Windows 10 say Windows 10 Mobile by now?
Yeah, I saw that. I still think that's deliberate. I think they want us to think of it as Windows 10.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it's Windows 10 happens to be on a phone.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I agree. I think we all agree the Surface Book looks very nice, but no sign of those over here for a while.
Yeah, not
No.
until start of next year, so at some point anyway. But by the way, that signature thing, I noticed with the latest version of Outlook Mail, which came out on the phone, it actually says sent from Outlook Mail for Windows 10 phone.
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
Oh, there you go. Cancel what I said then.
yeah. That's what's really strange, isn't it? I mean, is that an earlier thing, or is it on a phone? But
Yeah.
yeah. But of course, I know you can change it, but it's just interesting. I mean, most people don't, do they? But
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's gone. Thanks to Gary, he's gone for the 950 XL instead of the 950.
Yeah, I mean, I think both are great bits of kit. I did notice a much better improvement, a much increased improvement in performance than I expected to see on the 950 XL over the 950. Just going on spec. So I think, and that's definitely down to being able to run at full pout. So you particularly notice it on when you're playing sort of high res video on it, or things like that, where it's using a lot of graphic stuff. It seems to be.
I think when you start using with the dock as well, I think, and you're actually using it as a PC. I think that's
that's what I meant on Continuum when you're running up in full screen Continuum. Talking about Continuum, have you seen the new Microsoft page about Continuum, which has got a nice little video demonstration?
I haven't seen the video yet. I heard of it, but I haven't seen it yet.
So a couple of things on. The first thing, it obviously shows you using the dock, but it also shows you using Miracast.
Oh yes, that's what I did see. I did see a bit of it actually. Yeah, which
is interesting because everything I've been told by Microsoft, and certainly they've told me this privately, is that they don't want to encourage people using Miracast. So because they're worried about the performance potentials of the Miracast and a particularly bad experience, but then they put it up front and center on this video. And to be honest, it's one of the most compelling use cases I can see for it. They basically have it's the story of a family. Basically, father's working at home, mother's away working, obviously in a hotel room, and she's able to hook up to the hotel computer using a Miracast the hotel TV using a Miracast dongle, and use a PC to do all the stuff she wants to do, while at the same time getting text messages on her phone.
And I think he had a wireless keyboard, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, wireless keyboard and wireless mouse.
Yeah.
So.
I could use my Spectrum as my recreated Spectrum Bluetooth keyboard.
Yeah, because you can use Bluetooth keyboards and mice with it, which is a great approach. So certainly that's what I'm looking at using. So.
Yeah, it's funny that because, like you said, all the things we've been hearing are that you need the dock, and the fact the offer includes a dock at the moment.
Yeah,
I think certainly when you in the UK anyway. So. Yeah, I think if you don't need the dock, then I suppose you still need something like a DLNA, but Miracast. But the Xbox One is a Miracast device.
So it's quite interesting. I mean, there are good reasons why they might not want to use Miracast, and I can't talk about those because I told those under NDA. But there are more good reasons why they might want to avoid using Miracast. But certainly the public word. Recently has been that they encourage you to use the dock because the dock's the better approach. So it's interesting that the marketing does a really good push of selling you the Miracast way is really good.
I can't remember who it was. It might have been Joe Belfiore, I think, or certainly someone else. But someone at Microsoft basically said that the problem with Miracast is that because you're mirroring the display, you don't get the benefit of having the two displays. So if you've got the
the video, you do though.
In the video, you do, yes.
Right.
Which is very confusing because I thought I remember hearing that and maybe they've improved things in the last 2 days or so.
Yeah, in the video, because I did see a bit of it, and I sort of not twigged on it, but yeah, in the video you kind of see the phone just being the phone, and on the Miracast TV, it's got the start menu popping up.
Yeah.
And because if you've got a keyboard and mouse, then you can do that. You can't do is without that. It's impossible because you can't touch the second display. But with the keyboard and mouse, you can.
Yeah, I have to say it's a very compelling video, and I showed it to a non-techie friend of mine, and they were absolutely sold on the concept. Thought it was a really good idea. So it's very well done.
Yeah, I'll try and find that video. I just. I can't remember where it was now. I didn't have any audio on. I just saw it in sort of the background.
Yeah, so I know it's on one of the Microsoft sites. I'll dig it out while we're talking.
Yeah. Now the price seems to be fluctuating of the of the 950 XL. So what's so on the Windows on the Microsoft Store it's $529, but I think it's a different price on Amazon now.
Yeah, Amazon keep dropping the price. I'm just trying to dig up what the latest price is, because it's been all over the place the last.
I think it's certainly it's to come down. I think another £10 or £20. I think, although they're offering a discount, aren't they? They're not actually changing the retail price of it.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's all. I think they came down in price because the Carphone Warehouse had come down with a lower price. So some reason Amazon's not coming up.
So my pre-order is with the Microsoft Store, and I'm still not totally convinced it'll ever turn up anyway because of the Microsoft Store and the history they've had with orders.
I think they've probably priced matched Carphone Warehouse, because Carphone Warehouse has got the XL at $469.99.
Yeah, the Microsoft it's $529.
Yeah, so they've got the 950 at $419.99 compared to the recommended retail price of $449.99. So that's £30 off. And then I think the XL you just said, didn't you?
Yeah. I think the XL's £60 off.
$469 now, with due to release on December the 12th.
Yes, with the Microsoft Store saying December 3rd. So who knows of which? But really, I think if Amazon is at that price, Microsoft Store should match it. But I think the only way to get that it would be to cancel it with the Microsoft Store and order it on Amazon.
Yeah, don't worry, the Microsoft Store will cancel it for you.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Yes, exactly what I thought. I thought there's no point, no need to rush that, because I'm sure they'll cancel it for me. And but yeah, we said right at the beginning. So no new build today of Windows 10 Mobile.
No, but the big news is I'm now using Windows 10 Mobile as my daily driver.
You made the leap.
I made the leap. Well, I had a customer wanting a Windows 10 app done across store and mobile, so I thought, well, I might as well use it full time. And I had a few issues. There are a few apps on which I used on a daily basis which didn't work quite so well on Windows 10. And I think the biggest thing was the upgrade. I know we've gone through the upgrade process before, and they are improving it and they're trying to get it fairly spotless for the main release. But I did the upgrade first, and everything was like creakily slow. Mail was taking forever to load, and I'd try and send a text message and it wouldn't actually go for 10 minutes, and all sorts of things, crazy things like that. But what I did was Ian's trick of doing a reset. But I actually then restored from a backup, and that brought me back to almost exactly how I was before of the upgrade, and it was working perfectly.
That's exactly what I did with the 630 last week. I did a reset, then restored the backup, and it was much better.
Much better. So maybe that's what they need to do in their upgrade process.
Yeah, which is kind of what you think it's doing, but it just certainly worked better. So which was that was on? You got the 730, did you?
Yeah, 735.
Yeah, 735. Yeah.
And it works beautifully. It's really fluid. Certainly performance is not an issue at all. I noticed that Here Drive's back as well, which I thought had gone away, so that's good to see. I did the Bluetooth test in my car, and that's way better. I do feel that hear the so Jake's email from a few weeks back, I do hear the whole message now. I don't just get second. I do get turn left, second left, or whatever it is now. But that works really well.
Actually, it's a good point about that Here Drive. I think because I know, Jason, that was one of your issues about you missed, but it is back there.
Yes, I think it's good to see that back, because I know it's not owned by Nokia anymore, is it? So it's
well, the delay was actually Here themselves were holding out on stuff. The only thing I haven't seen is I don't think Here Transit's back, is it? Which is a shame, because I used that I must admit, I wouldn't have got around Redmond without Here Transit. So
I know Here Maps is in Here Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, there are quite a few things which are
I'll tell you what else is back. Lumia Play 2.
Yay!
I'm so glad that's back.
Although I must admit, I saw you say about that, and I can't find it in the store of mine. So I know it's supposed to be back, but maybe regional, I guess.
Yeah, actually, yeah. When I search for it, it's not. I don't think I can't see it now. Well, maybe I can send you a link, but
Yeah.
it works fine, and I've got it installed.
Yeah, it does install, so it's just not showing up in the store.
Yeah.
In the store. So, I mean, I've got it installed all right, but it's just not showing up in the store.
No.
This has probably gone over the heads of all our readers, listeners.
Yeah.
but it was one of our biggest concerns with the book.
Yeah, that was one of the apps. It was kind of a really useful app for DLNA stuff in Windows Phone, and it worked when we started the book, and then for a good chunk of the time it didn't work at all. But now it works again.
Yeah.
Luckily, we have got alternatives as well. But yeah, it's. I'm glad got to see that, but I'm glad to see the Here apps working as well. They're back, because I know people like those. I mean, I really want to get Windows 10 on my 1520 now. Windows Phone 8.1 just feels like an old operating system. It's really, I'm really itching to get it there, but I'm holding out because it's my main phone, and it's my only phone with a SIM card in, and it's the one device. It's got all my two-factor authentication on, and it's such a hassle. I had it crash a couple of months ago, and I had to reset it, and it's a real hassle doing it. So I think if I do it, I'll do the route that you did, Gary, and I'll do the upgrade, and then I'll do a reset. If they'd announced 10, or whenever they announced 10586, it's not out today, on Tuesday as we record this, but I have a feeling, I'm always right with my predictions, that we might see it on Thursday. Then I think I'll probably go with that release.
Yeah.
Tell you one thing, which is kind of annoying that I haven't done this update. I've got 16 updates in the store, which always error, and I know why they're erroring, because they've updates for the old versions. It'd be nice if they actually cleared those out as part of the update.
Yeah, I noticed that. I've got the motion.
Yeah.
I think is it? Well, I'll just get it on here. This is on my 630. The motion data errors all the time, and Lumia camera errors all the time.
Yeah, well, the funny thing was, there's an update I've got sitting here for Here Maps, but I also had another update for Here Maps in today, which actually worked. so they just need, I don't know. Hopefully, they'll do that as part of the final setup.
Yeah, I think so. So maybe by the time this show goes live, well, I suspect it won't be tomorrow. I think they seem to like Thursdays now, so maybe Thursday would be the day for Windows 10, because doesn't the 950 XL go on release in the US on AT&T on Thursday? Was it this week? Or was it 20th?
20th, I think.
20th, yeah. So that's Friday.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they're working hard to have a day one release available.
Yes, I would think so.
Day one update.
Because I did notice that I went on the Google Analytics for TDL, and their Lumia 1520, the 950 XL is hitting the site. So there are people out there with a 950 XL that are going on TDL. So as Scott Suffield pointed out on Twitter, they're probably Microsofties, because they're all using them anyway. Yeah, so maybe they'll be they'll ship with whatever version of Windows 10 was available at the time, and then you'll pair it on day one, and there'll be an upgrade to the latest version. But they kind of, I don't know, whether they have to put the Insider Preview version on, or pre-enroll them to the Insider Preview.
Well, I mean, we know the Microsofties have got versions ahead of where we are on the Insider program. I suspect those versions have also gone out to the OEM part of it. Well, to Microsoft, because Microsoft is the only OEM releasing this week. So I suspect that's the build which is actually going on the Lumia, and then it'll be patches on top of that. That would be how I'd handle it if I was them.
Because if they're going to be out on Friday, they've got to have some.
Yeah.
But then just because they're out for the 950 XL on Friday doesn't mean that the other devices can have the update.
Well, I mean, if you had to go back to the old preview program and you think about that, how that used to work, we used to get stuff coming out on actual real devices before it was even out on the preview program.
Yeah.
So I don't. There is a precedent for stuff going out to real devices before we've actually seen it as an insider. Although it seems odd that you do that without having a bit of a test beforehand to get things right. But I think that sometimes you go back to old world ways to get things out. And of course, they probably had to go through operator testing in this case anyway. So I suspect that's also that you might say that the build if we think this build's been probably out for 2 months now, maybe the build we've currently got in terms of how long it went through the cycle, then you'd think there'd be a slightly newer build that actually would have actually gone through operator testing. So
yeah, because the initial batch is AT&T only, isn't it? And then it's the unlocked version after that. And in the UK, it's like we said earlier, 30 December for the unlock.
Yeah.
But as far as because potentially mine is coming on December 3rd, I'm not going to read any reviews of the US ones. As far as I can say, they're not being released in the US on Friday. It's December 3rd they've been released when I get mine. So if I don't read the reviews, it means it hasn't been released.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's frustrating and disappointing though that the insider program hasn't seen, the final build or even a near final build.
Yeah, I'd love one to be able to move stuff to the SD card again.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, if you've done a reset, you can't do that, can you?
Yeah. But,
Thursday, that's my guess.
Yeah. Well, aren't Paul Thurrott and
I was just going to say
in the air coming to the UK, so it's about the right time to release one. There's always somewhere.
Yeah, I think I don't know, maybe Thursday, but I suppose the way that they announced it said no build. Everybody's even looking at the phrasing of the replies on Twitter now, isn't it? No build to announce today or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. They seem to like Thursdays, and the last few insider builds come out on Thursdays. So maybe we'll see one on Thursday, and that will be the version that I put on my 1520. Although, like I said last week, if it does come out on Thursday, it's only a week and a half, 2 weeks to wait until the 950 comes out, and it maybe a bit better just waiting and getting the proper experience on the 950.
Yeah. Of course, we've also had some pretty big app updates the last couple of weeks, haven't we? The Mail and Calendar app got a fairly substantial update. Well, only for one feature, which a lot of people have been crying out for.
Yeah, the linked mailboxes are back, aren't they?
Yeah. You can actually hopefully have a unified mailbox. Not something I want to do because I want to keep all my clients separately, but I can certainly see a lot of people liking that. My dad loves it because he's got 2 mailboxes and just wants to see them in one place. So that works really well for him.
Yeah, I must admit, I've used that on Windows Phone 8.1 with my 2 email accounts. I just find it easy just to be able to browse one inbox.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a big thing. Unfortunately, not for the desktop version, which would have been a nice option. But I noticed it actually. I don't know if you saw, but I think it might have been in one of the preview versions of Mail and Calendar, but the Mail app had a pop out, so you could actually split the Mail app between the Compose window and the actual main application window, or you could open an existing, an email that you received as a pop-out window, and that's disappeared.
Yeah, I never used that, but I saw you say that about that today.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely in. I mean, I know that they have been releasing builds as the Mail client to the Insiders program ahead of the kind of consumer branch. So it may be that it was just something that they were trialing. But I just noticed today because when it came out, you could double click a message and it would pop out onto a new window, so you could have 2 emails open side by side.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will come back as well.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed it, but you're right.
Yeah, it kind of silently arrived and then silently disappeared again.
Yeah, that was useful as well. I did use that a few times. So
yeah,
I mean, there's quite a lot I'd like to see migrate from the full screen version to the mobile version to the full screen version, because obviously talk about linked mailboxes, which is great, but also select all would be really nice to have back.
Yeah, but it's odd, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure they must be releasing different builds, but essentially it is the same application. So
yeah,
expect that that functionality to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's just how it's kind of exposed. it's the same set of features, isn't it? With the same, it's just the UI that's slightly different.
Yeah,
but
that's been one of my greatest things about actually moving to the moving the phone onto Windows 10, is that I've actually been able to clear out all my red mail in my, in my inbox, because I don't read everything. And I used to just do select all and mark as read, and obviously couldn't do that on the desktop version, but I can now.
I think the mail apps are actually looking quite good now. Actually, like, I know you said that last week, Jason. That they're a lot much improved from the original versions.
Yes, yeah, no, it does seem to, again, like Windows 10, really, it seems to be just kind of quietly, silently getting better and better. But yeah, as Gareth says, when you're trying to empty junk email, it would be nice to have either select all or empty option.
Mm.
Yeah, would be, but I don't know. These things, I'm sure there will be some. Well, there's got to be some parity between them. Otherwise, people are going to be running Continuum and saying, "But this doesn't look like my app."
Yeah. Yeah, they've got to count. I mean, there are a few things like with Groove that has some extra features, I think, around the radio and things that are on the phone, but not on the PC build, and just need to get a few of these things sorted out.
Sometime in the future, I'll tell you a story about that.
There's if this week should be the UK launch of the Band 2.
Yes.
So Thursday is when the store says my release date, my ship date will be. So So you never know; it might arrive on Thursday. So I should have it for next week's show. So I'll let you know how I get on with that, comparing it with the version 1 band. But I got a little tip that I found when I got my replacement bands, and I didn't document. And then I was helping Scott on Twitter, Scott's Fool on Twitter, and he said you should document that. So I did. When I got my replacement band, so my old one split and sent it back, and they sent me a brand new one, and I paired it up with the phone through the app, and everything was working fine, but no notifications were going through. It would, when you look in the health app, it was syncing up, but then it would kind of disconnect itself after a couple of seconds, and none of the third-party apps would work either. But it was sort of data was going from the band back to the health app, so you could still track things, but not doing the notifications. So a bit of fiddling around, and everything was paired up fine. And then I remembered the Devices Hub. So I went to the Devices Hub, and my old band was still listed there alongside the new one. So it's really easy, just sort of tap and hold on it and select remove. It got rid of it, and then everything started working again. And Scott got his band too, I think, when he was at the MVP Summit, and he had the exact same problem where it wasn't syncing properly and dropping off for 2 seconds. And it was because he had an old band in the Devices Hub, even though he didn't have the band paired up with the health app. So I put that on the blog as well. So if you have that problem at all, and when you get your new band this week, then that's the solution for it. I'm not quite sure why it does that, and there is an option to replace a band, but it still seems to leave that setting in there. Although I can't be 100% sure that I did the replacement band option. I think I got rid of it because I sent it back and deleted and wiped it before I sent it back. So I can't remember whether I did it right. But anyway, that's the fix if that's syncing issue, because Scott was getting really frustrated with it, and I saw him on Twitter because he does have a habit of seeming to break everything.
Scott wouldn't do that.
Yeah, so I'm sure he would be the first to admit he does break everything. So anyway, so it's all working for him now. So I think he was quite pleased with that. So I documented that fix, and it's on the site.
Talking about Microsoft Health, one thing I have noticed on my Windows 10 phone, I tried to use the Microsoft Health just to log a few things. I haven't got a band on it, but when I go into it, it came up with network error. Something went wrong. Please check your network and try again. And it just sticks in there. Can't get rid of it. It just goes round and round in circles. And I'm definitely connected to the network and things like that. So
I've seen someone else put that.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people say it, and there doesn't seem to be a solution for it. So someone just uninstalling Microsoft Health, which I might try to see if that works.
Yeah, I think I've had it on Windows. It's not on this build, but I've had it installed at various times, and it was it does work. But we'll I have seen a couple of errors with that. I'll tell you one other thing I found with the phone as well. The Edge browser is getting pretty good now, especially now you've got the syncing with the desktop version and everything. So that's looking much better. And the it handled quite the synchronized reading list and favorites quite well. I wasn't sure what was going to happen because I had all the insider machines that were on the insider build synced up, and then of course I had the ones without the with just the RTM build without the sync and different favorites. So I had effectively 3 different combinations of favorites, and what it did, it just merged them all together. So then I could then go and just delete out the ones that were sort of duplicates. So that actually worked quite well. I had a feeling that it would just overwrite the locally stored one with the shared ones, but it didn't. It merged them, and that worked quite well.
Yeah, and that's by design that they merge. And I think that the policy was that they weren't going to delete anything off, rather leave extras and delete anything off accidentally.
Yeah. I'm glad they did, but I wasn't convinced. Right, so I think a couple of things I want to mention as well. We had I put a guest post up by Ian Webster, another long-term reader and listener, and he posted a bit of a cautionary tale of buying direct from China. So it wasn't a real horror story, but it was just he just wanted to sort of have a place to issue his warning really without going over the top. So I posted it up for him today. It is a good tale. He tried to buy something in September because it was available in China before here, and he ended up with an issue. He had to send it back, and it cost him to send it back. And it is always a warning that it's sometimes, when you get the stuff from these other places like China, often the shipping is quite cheap and quite quick, but it comes with risks. And especially the more expensive the device, the more you've got to lose, I suppose. I mean, I bought like cables and things like that, and there's if it gets lost or it doesn't work, then 3 or 4 quid have lost. But when you're buying a PC or a computer, he was buying a mini little PC, then you're up in the ante, aren't you? Up in the States, and you just got a lot less leverage to sort things out. Anyway,
you have, and you're almost certainly like he was going to have to pay the international postage back and things like that. You just don't get the ability. I mean, to be fair, the place he ordered from have got quite a good reputation for actually making sure things do get replaced, and he did get his thing replaced, but you've got that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I'll include a link for that and some other things. The Phonos app has been updated, and this new media portal version available, but I think we're about out of time. So, Gary, where can we find you and what you're up to on Fascinating Tech?
So you can find me on Twitter at Gary WMA, and you obviously can find me at fascinatingtech.com. We're getting ready for our Christmas gift guide with reviews. Lots of my house is full of boxes at the moment with review stuff, so it's quite fun. I've got I'd say we're going to do a smartwatch section, so I've got some really fascinating stuff on that. We've got two of the new Pebble type watches, the Time and the Still Time. I've also got the brand new Huawei or Huawei, or it's actually pronounced Huawei, but a lot of people pronounce it all sorts of different things, watch, which is probably the best Android Wear watch I've ever worn. It's very, very watch-like. Amazing screen on it, really, really pretty. So I got that to review as well, and got a couple of other things. We're doing tracking Bluetooth trackers, so these little things you put on your keyring or in your wallet to make sure you don't lose your wallet. I actually used one of those to track my luggage, so I knew I had an alert when it was coming up to the luggage carousel on the way back from the States. So I've got one of those. One of my favourite one of those is one called Chipolo, which is I've just come out with a new version. The first version of Chipolo is one of the few other than the Nokia Treasure Tag, which is actually supported on Windows Phone. Unfortunately, the new version of Chipolo 2 doesn't have Windows Phone support, but it is really good. It's got a really nice feature where you can use it to trigger a selfie. So you can put your phone somewhere else and actually use the Chipolo device by shaking it to actually trigger the time countdown for a self timer effectively. So yeah, quite nicely done.
Excellent. And Jason, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DatabaseJace, probably moaning about the lack of Windows 10 mobile builds.
Well, we'll see on Thursday, and I will definitely find out by next week's show whether we've got a build. I'm hoping we'll have a build by then, but we might have a Band 2 by then. So until then, we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.